Hello, and welcome to Bear News One-on-One. I'm your host, Alani Cassiano. Today we have a very special guest. We're speaking with UNC's Chief of Police, Aaron Carmichael. Thank you so much for coming in today, Chief Carmichael.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Of course. So the first thing I want to ask you about is, can you tell me about what the UNC Police Department does for UNC?
Sure. Well, so it's funny that I've been on campus now for a little over a year, and folks sometimes don't realize that UNC has its very own police department. We are a fully sworn police department that's on duty 24 hours a day, and our jurisdiction really is the geographical footprint of the campus. We do have an intergovernmental agreement with the Greeley Police Department in the city of Greeley that gives us additional authority up to a mile from the boundaries of campus. But we're all fully sworn police officers to handle every type of potential crime or incident first responder may need to respond to.
All right, well, that's good to know. Next thing I want to ask is, I'm curious, how did you get to where you are today as the police chief of the UNCPD?
Wow. Well, that's how far back do I want to go? I did, the typical Van Wilder. Took me 7 years to get my 4-year degree out of college. But once I kind of figured out what I wanted to do with my adult life, police work was something I was always interested in. However, I graduated with a bachelor's in biology, so it didn't fit at all, but having the 4-year degree was certainly very helpful. It put me into a preferred candidate pool, helped me to get to the position I wanted, at least as a police officer. Started in Arvada for about a year and a half, then Greeley for the better part of 20 years, and just rising through the ranks with different assignments. Kind of done it all through the police departments, and about a year ago, or a little more than a year ago now, the opening for the chief of police for the university's police department came open. It's a position that I've always wanted to aspire to. I've done a lot of stuff over my career to prepare me for that, and I went through the process and was selected. So here I am as the chief.
Wow, well, that's really interesting to hear about your journey here, and to hear that's not always a straight line. You never know where life will take you, right? Well, very cool. What are some things that you're really proud of that the UNCPD has done?
Well, we are, we're a community policing police department. Service is really where our heart is. I'm really proud of, the changes that the officers have been able to buy into. One of my big philosophies is the 10-foot rule, in that anybody that a police officer encounters within 10 feet, that officer better be smiling and saying hi to, because that's the kind of police department we want for the campus. We want to be seen as partners, along the student's journey, to be someone that they can ask questions with, or will see us dance in a halftime show with, or maybe see us on the disc golf course. And in those moments where they need us for police questions, then we'll be there for them. But we have that relationship. It's not just this uniform that's been driving around in a car. No, we know that's Aaron, or we know that's Bobby, or that's Patrick, or that's Rick. We know who that person is who serves UNC as a police officer, and that's something I'm very proud of. That's the department really has taken that to heart, and that is really the kind of officer we're looking for, and all the police officers within UNCPD are doing that, and that's fantastic.
Well, I really like hearing that. I like hearing that the UNCPD is dedicated to building a positive relationship with the UNC community. It seems really important.
Yeah.
Well, good. I'm interested in knowing more about how you supervise the investigation of all crime types, and how being the team leader for the 19th Judicial District's critical incident response team was like. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, that's a big responsibility. The 19th Judicial District's critical incident response team. So much I can't even get it out right. So it is geared for those incidents in which we want transparency in how this major scene occurred. Most often, those are when officers are involved in shootings. So we're Greeley, UNCPD, and all the county agencies are members of that critical incident response teams, meaning they have signed on to the intergovernmental agreement, and that they place officers or detectives on that team, or supervisors on that team, to help with a more objective and transparent investigatory process. So with that, there's just with any major incident, there's a lot that goes on, and you have to be able to rely on the people that are doing the work, the people who are investigating, the people who are completing the tasks. There's just a lot to, much like any job. When you first start, you know a little bit about what the job is and how the job is performed. But as you have years of experience, you learn that there's nuances, there's different things you got to complete, there's other areas of training or certification or ways to go about it that are really more efficient. And the same thing is with police work or investigating a crime or an incident of any kind. You learn that there's other avenues, there's things we got to do that make the whole process better. And so being able to manage that, it takes a lot. From the moment that these things occur to throughout the final resolution of the investigation, there's just a lot going on. And it's important that, it's important that you have good people in place. And fortunately, I've been able to learn from a lot of people because I'm never the smartest person in the room. There's always people I can learn from. So yeah, it was a big responsibility. Something I was very humbled and enjoyed doing, trying to serve the community.
Absolutely. I mean, it sounds like a big responsibility, but it sounds like a very important job.
Right.
That's great to hear that you've contributed that to the community, for sure. Could you explain to me how the UNCPD is involved on campus? I know you touched on it a bit, and what else would you like to see the UNCPD do to continue to be involved with the UNC community?
Sure, we do a lot. First of all, I want to make sure everybody understands what UNCPD is. So there are currently 17 full-time police officers that are assigned to the University Police Department. We have a dispatching center as well within our building. We are located in Gray Hall, which is right in the middle of Central Campus, kind of between 8th Avenue and 10th Avenue. Probably south of like Carter and Fraser, and north of like President's Row of housing. So right in the middle there, right by Guggenheim, Crab Hall, and right there in the middle. So you can find us, and there's somebody there at the front desk 24 hours a day. So our officers and our dispatchers are there every hour of every day. So there's always somebody available. The phone number to our dispatching center is 970-351-2245. And anybody can call that number at any time for any questions. We're always there to answer. So with that full-time police department, our officers, are busy, patrolling. We have schedules where we want our officers to be in different locations, to be seen, and to observe and to be a part of the community. I'm very big on getting officers out of police cars. So even though we have the ability to drive around campus, I'm much more in tune and interested in officers getting out of their cars. And you can drive by homes, but why not get out and go in and have lunch with a student or just hang out and say hi to people? And so our officers are strategically placed to not just to do more than just patrol. So they get out of their cars and they'll do that. We have community engagement events where we have the entire list of events for the campus, and we actually assign officers to be at those. So there's been moments I think we've surprised some people, like, what are you doing here? Well, we saw you had free food, so we came over. Mostly it's that, but we do try to have officers at least make appearance at every event that's on campus. Sometimes we ask them to stay and be a part of it. Sometimes it's just to stop in and say hello, but we are strategic about that. Now, our officers do investigate crimes that occur on campus. Those can be property type crimes or person type crimes, but they also, a large part of their job is following up and doing investigations on cases that arise. So, they do spend time doing that, making phone calls, making arrests if they have to. But mostly, my philosophy is try to keep everything on campus. So even, in every incident possible, let's do everything we can to refer to student conduct, and see if we can maintain accountability that way rather than issuing a ticket or taking someone to jail. And rather, if we can avoid starting a criminal justice process and instead refer that to the inside of the institution, I'd rather do that anyway. But we do a lot of things from day to day, and the nice thing, it's always something different every day.
Absolutely. Well, that's wonderful to hear. I really like hearing about these efforts the UNCPD makes to connect with the community, going to these different events, getting out of those police cars, because I agree. I think that's a good way of making the UNCPD not just seem like a badge or,
Right.
people in cars, that you guys are people.
Absolutely.
So I like hearing this
Yeah.
a lot. So as a police officer, can you tell me how you feel about the motto, protect and serve?
Sure, it's cliche. I mean, that has been kind of everything you've seen on a movie about police. I'm not saying that there's not relevance to it, but really, what I'm more focused on, and this is what the speech. Matter of fact, I just gave it an hour ago to the two brand new officers we hired that started today, and that it goes: this job is not who you are; it's only what you do. In 50 years, no one will remember that I was here as a police chief for UNC, but my family, my friends, my faith, those things that make Aaron really who Aaron is, those things will remember for a lifetime if I wasn't there for them. So I try to keep my identity rooted in things that matter. So when we can do that as police officers, then we take out this portion of our self-realization, our identity that is surrounding being a police officer, and put it in a more healthy perspective. This is what we do for work, but really, I'm Aaron. My name is Aaron. Here's what I like to do. I'm going to be on campus. I'm far less interested in really doing the legal police work. We're going to go and investigate. I'm more interested in how can we hang out with you, so you get to know Aaron, not the chief of police, Aaron Carmichael, but Aaron. That's what I want. That's what I want for all officers that we have. So I think protect and serve is important because it's a component of what we do, but I really want officers to first be who they truly are and then leverage those skills as who you truly matter and who you truly are. How do we leverage that into the university and gaining those relationships? We've done a lot to try to move those pieces into place. You'll see it on our social media all the time, on our Facebook and our Instagram. You'll see us being goofy and hanging out and taking pictures with students and being at events, and we don't mind looking silly if it makes everybody laugh, and that's what we want. So really, protect and serve is important, but genuineness, authenticity, and relationships are more important to me.
Absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense. Can you tell me, as the police chief, how safe do you feel UNC is?
UNC is extremely safe, and I can say that from, like I said, I worked for Greeley for the better part of 20 years. The university, and I don't know what type of psychology study could be done, but we on campus do not see hardly any, if any, of the issues that surround us in the city. The university is positioned within an area of the city that's busy for the police department, for Greeley Police Department, but we have some type of, I don't know, magical fortress field, I guess, around the campus, because we very rarely, if ever, see anything come onto campus. We may have an occasional transient, underhouse person that would come on campus, and we'll go talk to them and see how they're doing, and maybe there's just some resources we can plug them into or get them connected to something. But really, I can tell you, I do not get the number of phone calls in the middle of the night being woke up for very serious things like I did with Greeley. The stresses here the level is so much lower. And just our crime data within UNC PD would show that we're very safe. It's really the campus. There's nothing about it. There's no area of campus that I would be concerned about going to. The university does a ton of investment into safety and has designed the campus in a way that really you're never far out of any observable security camera. It really is an extremely safe campus. And that's something not a lot of universities, not every university can say, but UNC can absolutely brag about it, that we are a very safe place to be.
Absolutely. Well, that's great to hear, and that's very comforting to hear as a student. I remember the first time we spoke to you, you told us that UNC is an island.
It is.
And it seems that way.
Yeah.
It just makes me feel safe here, and I hope it makes other people feel safe as well.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, what are things UNC students should be careful with interacting with Greeley? You're talking about, the crime that's in Greeley, the distinction between the safety and like the isolation, I guess, the seclusion of the campus versus Greeley. So what advice would you give students to protect themselves when they're in Greeley?
Well, with Greeley, really there isn't, certainly there are different places in Greeley that might be, less inviting than others. But overall, even Greeley, during the daytime, There really isn't this concern that you will fall victim of something just walking down the street. Now, choices make up a lot of that safety. If you put yourself in a position that would invite some type of attention from the wrong crowd, then there's potential you could be in danger to a certain extent. So, I would say safe choices will keep you 99.99% safe in this city. Everybody, I can never say that we would reduce all danger to a zero level, but I'm not worried about, I've raised my family here, my kids have gone through school here. I don't have any concerns about the city of Greeley, but certainly I think if you make choices that place you in a more risky or for risk behavior, then there's certainly a greater chance you could find yourself in danger. But overall, I think Greeley, it's within all the rest of the cities as far as average safety, and I don't have any concerns about it. I live here in town myself.
That's good to hear. That is very comforting to hear. Can you tell me a little bit about the crime prevention on campus and what steps the UNCPD takes to prevent crime?
We do. We do many things. We conduct training. We do educational programming. We do safety patrols. We do bike registrations. We have a lot of protocols in place that we work for crime safety. We do data analysis. We do environmental analysis as far as the physical structure of a building and how can we improve safety by environmentally designing things in place. We do site analysis. We plan for events. We do a ton of things related to officers, to campus safety that are just a part of our daily job. So we do try to address things as they come up. Last fall, we were experiencing, as everywhere in the country was, but Colorado especially, was one of the leading states in the country for auto theft. And that was an issue on campus that we were working to address, and how do we prevent more cars from being stolen. We had several cars that were taken, but our officers were then working extra shifts. We put officers in the parking lot specifically and made them, their assignment was to be in this parking lot. The university started adding resources to it. They contracted with a security company to patrol that lot every day, every night, all night long. We started using data analysis for what types of cars are being taken. We invested in security cameras. So when it comes to safety, all this is to say that really we explore every avenue. We try to identify the root cause of what the issue is, and then the university has been very willing, and under Dr. Feinstein has been, the president's been very agreeable, and frankly has asked that we continue looking at ways, and he finds ways to bring resources to help address the situation. So both the president and the cabinet have both been super supportive of the police department.
That's good to hear. Do you feel that the measures were effective in helping to prevent car thefts after that spike in the fall?
Absolutely. I think that other places like the city did not, because of the size of the city, it didn't have the same level of ability to address that broad area like we did. Our concentrated area was primarily one parking lot on campus, and because we were able to put so much attention there, I think we prevented a lot more thefts than it could have happened, because we had officers and security and cameras and things in place all the time. And I think we prevented a lot of crime from happening.
Good, that's wonderful to hear. So can you tell me, what does it mean for an officer to have a liaison hall?
Well, in the past, we have assigned officers to neighborhoods. So the residential halls that the students live in, those are grouped together in neighborhoods, like Mesa and the Ridge and Arlington. What we do with the police department, with the pandemic, it was suspended for the time being. And my philosophy is I'd like every officer to be a liaison to every building, but it's something that we're looking to bring back now that the pandemic is over, which gives us a chance to be a part of the training. The behind closed doors training and some of the things that the residence hall staff do. And bringing back a liaison officer is fine, but with our schedule and our staffing, it can be difficult to maintain one person, and this is the primary person to go to Lawrenson every time or that neighborhood every time. So really it may be liaison officers, it may be a group of officers that are assigned to certain neighborhoods, but we're always looking for ways to have that engagement be more effective. And instead of kind of trying to be every officer to be all things to all people, if we can certainly assign an officer or a group of officers to be that contact point, to be that familiar, friendly face, then that might be a smarter way to go, and we'll certainly look at revisiting that now that the pandemic's over.
Absolutely, I agree. I think that sounds like a great goal to move towards to help continue
Sure.
to build those community bonds
Yeah.
at UNC. So I noticed that there's a Chiefs Corner page on the UNCPD website. Can you tell me a bit about that?
So the Chiefs Corner page it's really it's just kind of a collection bin of things that I want to share. It's a resource that gets you some behind the scenes look as to what's going on in the police department. It's an article that I try to publish every 2 to 3 weeks that talks about really what is something that's going on in the police department right now, and it could be specific as far as this is what we're dealing with the auto thefts. It could be more of a generic safety message. Hey, commencement's coming up, and as you're moving on to the next phase of your life, and I tell a lot of dad jokes in there. But yeah, it's really just a place for. I'm hoping that the community can hear from me directly on something that's really a matter or an issue for the police department right now, and that's what I try to do every few weeks with that page.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like a great informational source.
I hope so.
Can you tell me what the Cleary Act is?
The Cleary Act that's an abbreviation, or it's a shortened form of the Jean Cleary Security. It's a 2-sentence title, but it's a federal law that came in place that started from. So there was a student at Lehigh University back in the 80s. Her name was Jean Cleary, and unfortunately, she was fell the victim of crime, and she was murdered in her own dorm room. What later would be discovered is that Lehigh University at the time had not disclosed a series of very violent crimes that occurred on their campus just prior to Jean's death, and had that information been available to the parents would later lobby in Congress that we wouldn't have sent our daughter there had we known it was this bad. So the federal government, Congress passed this act now that requires all colleges and universities to comply with reporting on data for crime and events that occur on campus. So for us, we produce an annual security report, which details all of the data, statistics on crimes that have occurred in the past 12 months. We publish a daily crime log, which will show everything that has occurred on campus in the past 48 hours. We also are responsible for issuing timely warnings and emergency notifications. So, and you will have, if you've spent any time on campus or related to the campus, you'll have seen those come through on your email, and on actually network connected computers will be a flashing message on the screen. We've issued those at times for, whatever emergency situation is going on. It could be we'd send a timely warning about the auto prowls or auto thefts from last year. We may send emergency notification about the weather, maybe if there's a tornado warning. It just depends, but a part of that Cleary Act requires us to warn and notify students and staff that there's danger on or near campus. So that's the other component of it that we have to comply with, and we have a person on campus whose job is solely to handle and deal with Cleary Act compliance. She is the Cleary compliance officer for the university. So she and her position is housed within the police department. At least her office is in our building. She actually will be her reporting structure is through the assistant vice president for finance and administration. But she works out of the police department, which gives her direct access to us to know exactly what's happened in the reports and incidents that we respond to. And yeah, so the Cleary Act it's a big thing. And that was probably my biggest change coming from city policing to campus policing, is knowing that getting familiar with that, the Cleary Act, and the additional components and requirements of that beyond what a normal city police officer would be doing.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like a very important act that changed the way safety is handled on campuses to make college students safer.
Right.
So the final question I wanted to ask you is, how would you describe the current relationship between the campus and UNCPD?
So it's in a development stage. I think that I'm different. Like I said, I know some police chiefs prefer to view their role as stoic, and I have authority on campus, and you may address me as chief. I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy. If I can find a way to make you laugh, I'm going to do that. That's much more the way I'm wired. And so I just think every person has their struggles in whatever capacity that is. There really is. This life's hard enough as it is without having to feel like your police officer is there to judge you for what has happened to you or what you're going through. That's not what I want. I want the relationship between the university and the police department to be one that our names, who we are, because we've been there and we've said, we've interacted in a positive way. And when we show up, you see the police car, but you don't have any hesitancy. There isn't any fear of what we're going to do. It's because we've been there and you've gotten to know us. And when we show up, it's because, oh, hey, you have donuts here, so the cop showed up. I mean, it's one of those things where I want it to be very natural. You see a UNC police car rolling by, and you're not uneasy at all, because in there, is Rachel, and you've talked to her before, and she's pretty cool. She gave you a ride here, or helped jumpstart your car there, or walked you from this building to that building because you didn't feel safe about going over there. Those are the kind of the relationship building that I want to do with the police department. I'm hoping, I think we're getting there, but I'm really looking forward to the day when, we're just, the police department, because they're the guys and they're the men and women who are fist bumping you in the hallway, coming to eat all your free food and, hanging out with you. They're the ones you saw that cop do that silly thing during the halftime of the basketball game. They're the ones that are, throwing a football with, just the, whoever the students are hanging out on the lawn by North, or, we're just another part of your journey, and not a negative part. Just folks that are trying to help you get through and want to be there for you in any way we can. That's what I want with the relationship.
Well, that sounds like a wonderful goal, for sure.
Good.
Well, that's all my questions for today. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to us today.
Yeah, I appreciate you letting me be here. This has been great.
Well, good. This has been Alani Cassiano with Bear News 101. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.